And welcome into Mizzou basketball post-game show. I'm Grant Salzman, joined by the Tiger legend Kareem Rush, and it was a dominant victory for the Missouri Tigers. They dominated Kareem in the second half, and they get a big Power 4 win against Minnesota. Please, if you got any comments, questions, concerns, get them in the comments below. We'll make sure to react and read them off. But what was your reaction, Kareem Rush, to that big Tiger victory?
Very, very impressive win. Our first really true challenge of the year, from a Power 5 school. So as close as the game's been before this one, I was kind of nervous to kind of see how we came out and playing against tougher competition. But first half was a little shaky. They out rebounded us, pretty substantially in that first half. But all in all, second half was amazing. Guys played well, bench played well. Mark led us again. So very, very proud of how they showed up in the second half.
Oh, what did you get, just if we're going to talk about maybe some of the negatives in that first half? Gates goes with Porter, Phillips, Anthony Robinson, Sebastian Mack, and Mark Mitchell. Kind of Mizzou's, I would say, big man jumbo lineup, trying to combat the rebounding. I think at one point, Minnesota had 11 offensive rebounds to Mizzou's 0.
Yeah.
And completely out-rebounded Missouri, especially in that opening 10 minutes when Mizzou trailed by as much as 9. What'd you make about that starting rotation and kind of how Minnesota just jumped on Mizzou early, especially on the glass?
I mean, that's kind of what we've been rolling with the first few games. So I know Sean was out last game, but I mean, that's a solid lineup. We're long. The rebounding was definitely a surprise, but a lot of those were long rebounds off threes. And a lot of that was hustle. So it wasn't necessarily our size. That was the problem is, sometimes that's how the ball bounces. But I think at the end of the game, we pretty much closed that gap as far as rebound is concerned. But the first half, that's definitely what kept them in the game. We didn't play too well offensively. I think one thing we're going to struggle with is, having what we really miss is Caleb being that deep threat, guys who can run off screens and demand somebody to step out and create opportunities for other guys. So I think Stone can fill that. Jacob Cruz came in and showed that he can come off from down screen. So I think having that threat on the three-point line is going to help us offensively. Mark is going to be, our steam engine. But I think Mark, I'm gonna get down to Columbia. I need Mark to work on his mid-range game, because if Mark can develop mid-range game, he'd be dominant. But he played well. The team played well. I'm proud of Jacob. I'm proud of the bench. They came out and played well tonight.
Yeah, Minnesota out offensive rebound Mizzou 14-3, but Tigers grabbed 2 more defensive rebounds than Minnesota. About Mark, so he was heating up a little bit at the end of the first half, and I think it was either in the first half, beginning of second. He barely missed a wide open 3. Then he shot another. Then he airballed the third and decided he was done shooting threes. Is it, as a player, is it comfortable knowing, like, we know that Gates has told Mark Mitchell, if he's open, shoot the ball? Is that a welcoming? What's that feeling like as a shooter?
That's going to be that's part of what you got to do as far as building that confidence. You may start off missing the first half of the season, but at least when you're open, you get the confidence, and once you start knocking them down, that's going to add another dynamic to his game. So I'm cool with him taking open threes. I think we should. He should practice a lot of them after practice. I'm sure he does. But once he knocks down a couple and finds his groove from the three-point line, if he can be a 35% three-point shooter over the course of the year, that'd be a tremendous value to us. But keep shooting him. He's going to be he's going to be our offensive leader. So we need him to be comfortable shooting those shots sometimes.
And you talked about Caleb Grill losing him. It felt like with Grill at points you didn't really need to run an offense. It was go down, Grill jacks up a 3, he makes it. You get that momentum. There was a point, and I think it was when Mizzou was trailing by 10 in that first half, where 3 or 4 possessions in a row, Mizzou went down, maybe off a missed shot, inbound, first pass, shoot a 3 or shoot a tough mid-range. And Jared Sutton, the color commentator, even mentioned, like, Mizzou needs to find some action here, set a screen, cut to the rim. Why does that tend to happen kind of in the middle of the game, where it seemed like this for the last few years? There can be 3-4 minutes of just kind of lulls where Missouri doesn't run anything offensively.
Yeah, sometimes that's how the pace of the game goes. You get up and down. Guys want to make big plays. Guys want to make an impact while they're out there. but most times they're shooting deep balls. So, and the guys who shot those, we're confident in them shooting those. I'm confident Stone shooting those shots. I'm confident Cruz taking those shots. So we need those guys to be confident in their roles. It may not have been the best shots during that time, but those guys being aggressive is something that we definitely going to need, because if we can have a strong perimeter game, that's only going to open things up for Mark. He can drive. We showed in the second half that he had 5 assists. So he's penetrating and kicking and getting guys easy shots to knock down. So we need those guys as confident as they can be.
And a guy we've talked about a little bit last show is Sebastian Mack. He had 14 points, including, I think, Missouri's opening 8 points, kind of kept Mizzou in the game in the first half when they were struggling to score. I've been impressed by what we've seen from Sebastian Mack so far, and I can't get the Sean East II count out of mind.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch him very much at UCLA, but from the first 4 games, he's clearly a scorer. He's clearly a down here scorer. Clearly a very aggressive driver. He hit a couple threes today, which was great. He can be that 8 to 12 point scorer for us in that first unit. That'd be a sweet spot for us.
So Mizzou goes into half 32-30. They come out, win the second half 51-30 en route to the 83-60 victory. What kind of switch did you see in that second half? Really in that last, I would say for 28 minutes it was competitive, and then Mizzou just went on, I think it was a 21-6 run that really just shut the door on the Golden Gophers. What was Mizzou doing differently, because it seemed like a lot of defense to offense, and that's when Mizzou's at its best, when they're running?
Yeah, rebounding and being efficient on offense. Mark was doing a great job of commanding doubles and kicking it out. And once you get on the run, you can string a couple stops together. And then, like I said, all of a sudden it's a 21-1 run, and you're up by 15, 16. The game's pretty much over from there. So those guys have, done a great job in the second half of kind of flipping the switch. Hopefully as the season progresses, we can, play as well in the first half as we do in the second. But, it speaks to how Dennis goes in the second half and make adjustments. Those guys come out and ready to play in the second half. So all in all, the bench played well. If we can get that from Cruz, he's not going to always have 14 and 8. But if you can give us, 10 and 5, Northweather came in and played well. So guys, all in all, it was a great team effort tonight.
And I want to get into this because I think it's kind of leading in. It's the Home Bank money moment of the game. Brought to by Home Bank, the team behind our team at STL Sports Central. For me, it's easy, Kareem. It's that 8-0 run Mizzou goes on when Northweather hits the 3 and 1. Mark Mitchell gets an and 1. They get the ball back again and hit a 3. They score 8 points without Minnesota even touching the basketball. That, in my opinion, switched the game on its head.
I agree. We in agreement there. Like I said, they had them scorers for like almost 8 minutes. So if you do that and you play well on your end, chances are the game's going to probably be a blowout from there. So again, those guys came out and played well. Dennis is doing a great job. 4-0. We're at home for another 4. We can get out to a really, really great start to this year.
And speaking of Luke Northweather, I know he only has 6 points, 1 rebound in 21 minutes, but I've been really impressed from him so far. He hits 2 threes, played some good defense. It feels like when we're watching him, maybe he's not the flashiest, but so far I haven't really seen him do a whole lot wrong. He's kind of just right spot, right place, right time for Mizzou.
Yeah, he's a solid guy. Like I said, didn't chance to see him play prior to this year, but so far so good this year. Stretch 4, stretch 5, rebounds well, can knock down corner threes. Goes out there, plays his role very well. So, Dennis has always done a great job of building depth in our team. So as we get closer and closer to being full strength, these guys getting this playing time early on, getting confidence is only going to help us as we progress throughout the year.
Kareem, I want to get your thoughts here from Gary White. 3 rebounds from our 3 new big guys. Weak sauce. Could have used that collective money on a stud transfer or a one-and-done guy.
We're 4-0. Like, what everybody mad about? We're 4-0 right now. Let these boys play.
Mm-hmm. What is, if we're going to Gary White's point, Sean Phillips, only 1 rebound, and I guess the other big man he's talking about is Porter, who had 0, and Luke Northweather with 1. Why do you think Mizzou struggled a little bit on the glass from those 3 big men?
I mean, they shot a lot of threes, so those are long rebounds. So I don't think our guys are, in there not trying to get boards. Sometimes that's how the ball bounces. Luke had 10 rebounds the previous game, so he goes in there and does his job. Sean was out sick, didn't play very much, was in foul trouble. So that has a lot to do with it. Those guys are big and long, so when they're out there, they're rebound. And they've shown that previous games. But again, like I said, we didn't need much of it tonight. I think we shot close to 6% from the field. The second half was just a blowout. And then, after that, it doesn't really matter.
And Jacob Cruz comes off the bench, has 14 points, 8 rebounds, caught fire in the second half. That he's a long guy that kind of plays your 3-4 role, that if he's grabbing 8-9 rebounds a game, you're going to feel really good about yourself.
Exactly. So like I said, he played almost 30 minutes tonight. So a lot of those guys didn't play their normal minutes. So I'm not too concerned. I think Mark had around 6 or 7 rebounds. Cruz had 8. So we closed that margin to a decent amount towards the second half. But again, we shot 60% from the field, so it's going to be hard to lose a game, shooting that well.
And a big thing that I've seen now from Mark Mitchell, I know we're only 4 games in, but he had 6 assists tonight. Minnesota was looking to double him. Last year, I think at times we'd see once he put his mind to going downhill, he was going downhill and the ball was going up. We saw teams, especially in the SEC, maybe bring a big guy from the other side of the block, come over, cut him off, and he would panic, maybe turn the ball over or force a bad shot. Nico, Minnesota's head coach, was trying to double team him. That was the goal. And Mark, cool, calm, get out to a shooter, force a 3. If he can continue to do that, teams won't be able to double team him.
Yeah, that's part of evolution as a player. You understand, how defenses are playing you. And, any mark of a great player is how much better do you make your teammates. So Mark has been able to get, take the guys off the dribble, which he's a matchup problem. If you're small, he's going to take you down in the post. If you're big, he's going to take you out the perimeter and do his dribble drive. So if he can be a playmaker for us, takes a lot of pressure off and Barrett to do all the playmaking because we have the ball in Mark's hand all the time. So if he can do that, hover around 4 to 5 assists per game, that'd be great.
And another guy that I think we've seen some improvement so far this year is, we know Anthony Robinson tends to find himself in foul trouble. So who's going to be your backup point guard, ball handler? Teal Barrett seems to really be coming to that role nicely. He had 8 points, but 3 rebounds, 2 assists and 3 steals, only had 1 turnover. And what I've been impressed with is he's been finishing at the rim a lot better than he did last year. All 4 of his buckets came from inside the paint. He seems to have a better court awareness this year from his freshman to sophomore year.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's what happens. From year 1 to year 2, you understand the speed of the game. You adjust to that. He's a big point too. He's 6'4", so and very athletic. And we're going to certainly need that. I like getting Ant off the ball from time to time. Ant's been done a great job spot shooting and knocking down 3, so we can get him off the ball and do some spot shooting. That'd be great for him. But yeah, if we can keep Ant out of foul trouble, that'd be great. But that's part of his MO. He's aggressive on the defensive end and leads us in that regard. So, but as he, as a junior, your 3rd year, you should understand how to, play aggressive, but also not foul as well.
And with that, he getting Ant off the ball, he's so integral to the defensive side, giving him a breather even when he's on the court, not having to bring the ball up, I think could just let Ant get those 3-4 extra minutes a game that could be crucial in crunch time.
Yeah, between Barrett, Stone, Mark, we got plenty of ball handlers that can spell and get an Ant off the ball, from time to time. So I like, when Mark gets it and pushes it. Like I said, I like what I've seen from Stone and his scoring ability. He's not just a shooter. He attacks the rim, very athletic as well. So I'm very happy with the first 4 games. The first 3 were, probably lesser, competition, but, our first true test against a Power 5 school, we came out and had our biggest win of the year and played our best ball. So it's very encouraging. I'm sure Dennis is happy with this game, and we move it on to the next.
I want to tell you real quick about our sponsor, DraftKings. New Missouri customers can download the DraftKings Sportsbook app today. And when we go live, place just a $5 bet to unlock $300 in bonus bets. All you got to do is use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports to unlock $300 in bonus bets. So, Kareem, I was going to ask you that question. You were getting into it a little bit. We kind of, after the win over VMI, we're saying, okay, you've beaten 3 teams you were supposed to win. That SEMO game was too close. Hopefully that's just, beginning of the season and then working through some kinks. And then they come out slow against Minnesota. And I know, scrolling through Twitter and social media, there was fans going, here we go. They play bad against Minnesota or against SEMO. Now they look bad against Minnesota. but they end up winning by, 23 points.
Yeah.
But I thought this was a really good barometer because I think this Minnesota team is scrappy, not quite a tournament team, but will beat some Big Ten teams. Where does this put you on, I guess, your confidence level, the barometer test for Missouri?
Oh, yeah, we're still very much early in the season, and we're not even at full strength yet. So I'm not even thinking that we're going to be even close to a finished product now. Guys are still kind of finding their way. New guys on the team learning Dennis's scheme and all that type of stuff. So, like I said, last game, probably about game 15. I'll kind of know where we are once guys settle in. But like I said, the advantage that we have is that we do have a nice stretch of home games. We got out to a nice hot start, so confidence, compounds. So long as we keep getting wins, we're gonna feel better and better about ourselves, build up that record, and then once we get into the meat of our schedule, guys be operating on all cylinders and having tons of confidence.
So you play Notre Dame December 2nd. Now next 4 games, you go Prairie View A&M, South Dakota, South Carolina State, and Cleveland State. Obviously, 4 games Missouri will be heavy favorites in. How does Dennis Gates do 2 things? Kind of tinker with things and try to figure out what his rotations are, best lineups, while also making sure his team stays locked in so you don't have a scare like SEMO again. So most games are like VMI. How do you keep the guys locked in for this kind of really almost a month stretch against teams that are a lot lesser than them?
I mean, getting a win is difficult against anybody, So you have that as your mindset. We got to go out and get a victory, and depending on how the game goes, you may be able to kind of play around with different lineups, depending on we got a big lead or whatnot. But at the end of the day, we want to get out to we want to stay undefeated as long as we can, So we take no opponent lightly. Go out there and handle our business, even if we are a favorite at home. We still want to go out there and take care of business and get out to a great start. Like I said, we finished this game. We are 8-0. That's a fantastic start for us.
Yeah. All right. Well, Kareem Rush, an 83-60 victory for Mizzou. Any final thoughts about this one for Dennis Gates and the Tigers?
No. All the Mizzou fans out there who'll be jumping on my boys' back and getting nervous about let these boys live. They're gonna be all right. They played great tonight. We're gonna get better and better throughout the year. Just be patient with the boys, and like I said, I always got the back.
All right, well, he's Kareem Rush. I'm Grant Sauls, and make sure to stay tuned for Mizzou basketball post-game shows right here on STL Sports Central after every Mizzou game. We're done for now.
MIZ.